So this is the iPhone 6. The goal of this video is to help you decide if you should or shouldn't buy this phone in Okay, no, I'm kidding. You should not buy this phone in 2021. If you're looking for a super cheap iPhone, at the very least, go for the iPhone 6s. But then, why this video? Well, number one, I do think there are very few specific reasons why you might want to buy this phone. And number two, I just wanted to take a look at this phone after 6 years and how it's held up, especially in terms of software. So after using this phone for more than a week, I have some very interesting thoughts. And let's talk about them. Okay, so normally, I don't have too much to say about the design, but in this case, I do. So this is not your normal glass sandwich phone. There is glass on the front, but on the back, it's all aluminum. Plus, this is the thinnest iPhone ever made, and let's just say Apple kind of messed up because apparently it's quite easy to bend these phones, especially the iPhone 6 Plus. The dents on this phone are visually telling you just that. The materials used to make the body of this phone are just not very strong, but I have to say, I do like the overall design of this phone. I think it looks good, and it feels relatively premium, even to this date. And this phone also has a headphone jack, except it's a little bent on this phone, again because of the materials used to make this phone. But other than the bending issue, I like the design, and the back of this phone actually feels kind of like the back of one of the newer iPhones with the matte finish, which is really nice. Now, this phone has a 4.7-inch screen, which is quite small for today's standards, but it is the same screen size as the iPhone 6s, 7, 8, and SE2. So if you don't have huge hands, you can comfortably type on it and get pretty much everything done easily. But yeah, it's not the best screen. However, it's not terrible. In fact, I think it's a decent screen. Similarly to what I said in my iPhone 11 video, in real life the screen doesn't look that bad and it doesn't have terrible viewing angles. I used this phone for the past 7 days and I had no problems reading text and typing. I even watched a couple of 4K videos on a 720p LCD screen. Yup, that happened. However, the screen doesn't get super bright or super dark, so it is a little uncomfortable to use this phone outdoors and at night. Let's talk about performance. So this phone is running Apple's A8 processor with 1GB RAM, and the base model comes with 16GB of storage. Now, if you forget about the specs for a second, let me tell you about my experience using this phone. Okay, just so you know, I did not transfer all my data to this phone. I installed a few games and my most used apps, which are YouTube, YouTube Studio, and Chrome. After using this phone for 7 days, I realized a few things. Number one, it wasn't as slow as I thought it would be. The camera was better than my expectations. Number three, the battery life wasn't great, but most importantly, it didn't feel like an old iPhone because of the software. Yes, you can get iOS 14 or 13 on this phone. It's stuck on iOS 12, but still, it doesn't feel like a super old iPhone. I think because of the UI. It's too familiar and it wasn't lagging as bad as I thought it would. So although on paper the specs are pretty bad, actually using the phone is not a terrible experience. When it comes to gaming though, I was genuinely shocked when I was able to play Call of Duty, a graphically intensive games with little to no lag. This phone did turn into a stove, but still the results exceeded my expectations by a long shot. So then why did I tell you not to buy this phone? Well, it's because you won't be able to download some apps since this phone is not on the latest iOS version. And that is probably the biggest reason why I wouldn't recommend you to buy this phone. Let's talk about battery. So this phone has a 1810 mAh battery. With 93% battery health, I was able to get about 3 hours of screen on time, but on average, I was getting somewhere around an hour and 30 minutes. So the battery life on this phone is not good, but if you use an iPhone 6, let me know how much screen on time do you get. Next, the cameras. So this phone has a single wide-angle 8-megapixel camera on the back and a 1.2-megapixel camera on the front. Now, I don't have too much to say about the cameras, except the back camera was better than my expectations. If you consider the price of this phone, I honestly think the camera is not bad. You can shoot up to 720p at 240 frames per second and take square photos, but that's pretty much where, I guess the cool features end. You don't get any fancy features like night mode. That's about it for the cameras. Anyways, in conclusion, I think this phone is actually pretty good, considering how much you can get it for. If my phone breaks, gets lost, or stolen, I would be totally okay to use this phone as a backup until I get another phone. And that's exactly why I think you might want to buy this phone. You probably don't want to have an iPhone 12 Pro Max as a backup, unless you're this guy. So I think arguably the iPhone 6 is one of the cheapest iPhones you could get that would work great as a backup. Another reason to buy this phone is maybe you have younger siblings or kids and you want to give them a phone just so they can call you or text you, let's say from school. I think this phone would be great for that. Even if they break it, it probably wouldn't hurt too much because it doesn't cost like $1,000. However, I think these two reasons for buying the iPhone 6 could be argued, and I'm totally down for a debate in the comment section. But that's it for this video. I'm sorry it took a little too long to make this video, but I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please like it. And that's it. Also, we recently hit 1K subs, so thank you. I'll see you in my next video. Later.